Welcome to the Live Full, Work Fun podcast. This is the show to encourage you to live your life to the fullest and do fun work that fuels your lifestyle. Hi, I'm your host, Gayla Scrivener. Every week, you'll be introduced to amazing guests, useful resources, and inspirational stories. You'll discover opportunities and perspectives to shape your version of living full and working fun. Hi there, and welcome to the show. If this is your first time here, I am so glad that you're joining for the very first time. Thanks for checking out the show. And if you're returning, welcome back. It's always great to have you here. I got a question for you, though. Are you a part of the Live Full Work Fun community yet? If not, be sure to hop over to Facebook and join the Live Full Work Fun Facebook group. Well, today, you're going to meet Christopher Nelson. Christopher is an experienced technology executive, real estate investor, author, and co-founder of Wealthward Capital, a real estate investment firm with a diverse portfolio of over 3,000 multifamily units, mobile home parks, and ATMs. Christopher shows technology employees how to achieve financial independence through education and creating passive income portfolios. He is currently editing his book, From No Dough to IPO. When I first met Christopher, I didn't quite get what he did. I was drawn to learn more. On his website, he has a great video sharing his story about how he needed to start over after a failed business. But also through his website, what I found interesting was learning how incredibly stressful and risky the world of technology development really is. Stressful both personally and professionally. Learning that the payoffs that could land a tech professional from earning just a regular paycheck to a multi-7-digit payday causes a whole new set of stresses. I had no clue about that world. Now, you hear it all the time, how people, that come into a great deal of money all of a sudden seem to lose it as quickly as they got it. It's like sand flowing through, your fingers. Because of the need of a better way for creating long-term financial stability, I love how Christopher figured some things out and is helping his fellow tech professionals. Now, just because you may not be a software developer or a programmer or some sort of tech inventor, and you may not even aspire to be one, you'll still love this conversation with Christopher. I was surprised right at the beginning of our conversation to learn that he started out doing a career totally different than tech. And you'll learn from Christopher different perspectives to help you live full and work fun. Well, Christopher, thank you so much for joining me today. It is a delight to have you.
Thank you so much for having me. It was a pleasure meeting you this summer and, following along on your journey of your podcast. So excited to be a part of this.
I have been looking at your website and looking at your journey, and I'm excited for you to share your story. But first, can you tell listeners a little bit about yourself that may have not been covered in the bio that I just read?
Yeah, I think one of the things that was not covered in my bio is the fact that, my career had a big detour. I am now an established technology executive, but I didn't start out there. I actually really thought that I was going to spend my career in restaurants. And I spent my 20s mentoring and working very hard to become an aspiring restaurateur. But I think that, you talked about it in this powerful pivot episode that you have as, live full, work joy, is at some point I lost my joy of doing that. And I had to find something new. And, I really found my love of technology, and I found a different way that I wanted to work. And that has really launched me into something brand new. And so I think, going back to that point of, when we all are seeking joy in our work and we really want to live full lives, sometimes there is a pivot that comes out of it. We're not always going to find this one thing and do it forever, but I do believe that it is in work that we do discover where we can find the things that we can work joy. And that's what has led me to where I am today.
You've gone through a few pivots, haven't
Yes,
you?
I
So
have.
from restaurateur to technology, tell me a little bit about that pivot. What did you go into? What was your technology journey like?
Well, so my technology journey was really around going and finishing my degree. I think I was, on the traditional path of, leaving high school, going right into university, and it wasn't the right fit. And as I left university in my early 20s and decided to go travel the world and work in restaurants, it drove my parents crazy. But my journey to get back into technology was going back to school and really finishing what I'm started and studying the science. Like I really love math and numbers. I really love all forms of technology, right? Computers and especially applications. And it was really in that study that I found my way into, this career that I've created for myself, which is really supporting and maintaining business applications. You can think of CRM or finance systems, especially for larger companies, because I love being at this intersection of business and technology and solving these difficult problems together that really help see technology advance businesses and allow them to be bigger, faster, and stronger.
Are you a programmer?
I was no longer. I mean, now you'll find that, my titles tend to be senior director, vice president, and I manage teams. And it's interesting how my career, again, has evolved inside of technology from being somebody who built the technology to now somebody who assembles the team that builds technology. And I've loved that evolution as well, because now I've definitely become more of a people person, a people manager, with a technologist being somewhat of not a primary focus, but also important for me to, obviously understand and manage the team.
So coming from the technical piece, the programming piece, so I can imagine you being like a translator, because tech folks talk differently or think differently than maybe the end user.
Very much so. Very much so. I mean, I think that, that's truly how I think of a lot of it, because again, while I work in high technology companies, I work for places that manufacture software, I am going to be working with the billing team, the accountants, and saying, okay, wait, how are we going to now bill and invoice these very traditional, methodologies of business? How do we actually now get these systems to generate these invoices in the way that we want to? I sit right at the middle of right to your point of end user business speak and technoid and technology speak. And that's what I really enjoy. And I think that's where, that's translated now as I am moving myself to now being at this intersection of technology, careers, and money, is this ability to synthesize, to take complex things, concepts, and be able to translate them into things that people can understand. Because now I'm actually doing that for the technology people, is to help translate, hey, thinking about personal finance, thinking about investments, how do I now translate that into something that the technoids can understand too?
So how did you, being in the tech world, transition or incorporate real estate and passive investing? You teach folks how to do that. You help the tech community create passive income. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Sure. Well, it actually came out of, one of the events. I think people go into technology. I mean, it was well known as I was getting established in my tech career in the early 2000s that you go to work for tech companies because you can work for equity and you can have these big paydays. And, my family and I experienced ours in 2012 when we went through a tremendous IPO, and we experienced this phenomena called sudden wealth. And it is truly a psychological phenomena where, 1 minute to the next, you go from, normal citizen to having multiple 7-figure payday. It creates a lot of stress and anxiety if you haven't planned for it, if you haven't been through it before. And while my wife and I are both very fiscally astute and we manage our finances very well, it's really, how do you get that money to go to work, and how do you actually manage it yourself in this whole environment? Because the reality is that, the world of wealth management is challenging. It's not very straightforward. It's not always user friendly. And so it was really our own journey, and this is something that you and I talked about earlier, is be the change that you want to see in the world. My wife and I really worked very hard and had read Robert Kiyosaki, Rich Dad, Poor Dad, and like yourself, wanted to get to a point of where we can be financially independent. So we knew that we had to do a lot of work. And that's where we found joy in it. I mean, we enjoy it. We enjoy solving, I think, challenging problems together. And so we went and did that. As we were doing that, many people leaned in and said, we would like to do this with you, because we were just chit-chatting and talking about it. We really then at that point got convicted and said, okay, we need to start a business to help people, because people need help. Nobody feels sorry for the technology employee or executive that is having these large paydays. But the reality is that a lot of them are struggling to figure out how to gain financial independence, how to retire, how to downshift. And so that's really has become a mission for us, and where we're finding a lot of joy.
When you suddenly get a large payday, were you frustrated about going to a traditional financial advisor?
Yes, I was, because, well, I'll tell you, because traditional financial advisors, they started off being salespeople, right? They weren't really financial advisors. And a couple things have happened. Number one is the traditional market was stocks and bonds, and has always been, because there was this construct that said stocks grow. There used to be a lot of dividend stocks. A lot of them have now become growth stocks, because the investors want to see stocks growing, right? So they grow. So your pile of money expands. Then as you got towards retirement, you would then pivot that into bonds, and bonds would then preserve your capital, right? It wouldn't go up or down, and it would send you checks. What happened in 2008 is the bond market got decimated, right? So now bonds, the yields are not even that of inflation, let alone the fees that your advisors charge. So my belief was, oh, hey, if I have this multiple seven-figure payday, I'm actually going to get access to these, wealth managers that are they're going to make money when I make money. And if I'm not making money, they're not going to make money, because they're running, sort of this incentive aligned business. But it wasn't. It was these same, what I call these fast food wealth managers that tack on these fees that then put you in these mutual funds. And they do not talk about the fact that there's no more income in their business. You have to go to real estate. You have to go find that. And because otherwise this whole 4% rule now in a high inflation, area where, okay, yeah, you take out 4% a year, but inflation is 6% a year. And you're also paying somebody 1% a year. And they're also in loaded mutual funds. You're -8, and then you're also taking out 4, all of a sudden you're going to be taking out a lot more than you realize. And this whole concept that they sell of, save up enough so that hopefully it doesn't run out before you retire. I just felt like, number one is, that's not the way it's supposed to work. That's not the way that it worked in the 90s when we had a healthy bond market. And so the fact of the matter that we need to have income in our portfolio and they're not guiding us to it. I just thought that was, as Mike Kim talks about, right? What's the thing that really makes you mad, that upsets you? It's the fact that nobody is talking about this. So that's where we said, well, then we're going to build a business and we're going to then provide that to people so that they can, number one, invest with us, or they can see what a good investment looks like. And then they can go and find that elsewhere.
So you had to experiment on yourself first in your journey, because you had the highs and lows of a sudden payday that changed your and your family's life. What did you find out? Where should you kind of diversify, or where should you put your money?
Where should you put your money?
Yeah.
Well, so number one is, I'm not I just want to make sure I have to say, my lawyer makes me sure I say this is I'm not a financial advisor. I'm just somebody who's been there, done that. So everything I'm going to tell you is just my experience and is not advice, right? But we need to put our money into real estate. We need to own and have real estate, right? And this is what Robert Kiyosaki talks in his book, something that creates passive income. Now, there's this concept most people don't realize of, whether you're accredited or not. Accredited is a high net worth individual. They have $1 million of assets outside of their primary residence. To them, there's this whole avenue of private equity. But if you're not accredited, one of the places where we started is there's a company called Fundrise. Fundrise allows non-accredited investors to invest in income producing real estate, and they have a few different vehicles that can create income for people that is substantial, right? I mean, substantial income is anywhere from 6 to 10% cash on cash return, where your original principal is not shrinking, right? That's the whole key, is like, we're not shrinking this. It's staying the same because you're actually purchasing these assets. There's also something that's lower risk, is we love Worthy Bonds. Worthy Bonds is a great company that is smaller to medium business bonds, but it has a 5% cash on cash return. You don't have to be accredited. You can do $50 a pop, to go in there and buy these smaller bonds and have some level of liquidity. But this is where, constantly looking what's out there in the financial market, and again, we try to be as conservative as possible in my mind, or it's going out and buying some of your own, smaller properties, right? We do have a small portfolio of 5 single family homes that are producing a 15% cash on cash return for us. That's part of this passive income portfolio. But that is my encouragement to everyone, is, go and find out where there's real income and real return.
Real estate, if done right. And it sounds like with what you do with Wealthward Capital, there's like a collective fund and everybody kind of comes together real estate based.
That's right. So what we help people do is what's called passive investing, where people have money, but they don't want to be the landlord. Is there's the ability, to actually get the benefits of real estate, all the benefits of direct ownership, but you do not have to be the landlord. That is what's very, very important. Is, it's a nice alternative, because like for us, we have, these 5 single family homes that it takes some time to manage, but then the rest of our, money on the real estate side is really in these passive investments where, we're more managing the manager than actually being the manager. And that's truly where we want to be, because, like you, we want to be able to, travel and enjoy ourselves as well.
You have a book that you're in the editing mode for.
That's right.
Tell us about your upcoming book.
I think I have had such a life-changing experience working in technology companies that I really want to take that message broadly to people, especially people who are leaving school or getting ready to enter the workforce, who may be feeling, where am I going to, eke out a living in today's environment? And I want to let them know there is a ton of opportunity. Like right now, there is huge opportunities in working in technology for cybersecurity, in different spaces, and that there's a way that you can do it as an investor with what I call the investor's lens, where, you hear a lot of noise in the news. There's a lot of noise and you have to seek what is the truth. And so many people say, well, working for tech equity, there's nothing in it because, I work and then these startups go nowhere. Well, you have to look across the spectrum, and many people who work in this high risk, high reward, early stage startups, they fail. There's a high rate of failure, but for myself, having been through 2 IPOs out of the last 5 companies that I've worked for, people would say, well, wait, how did you do that? And I know many people have been through 3 IPOs or even 4 IPOs. These initial public offering where there's really tremendous, wealth generated. And the reality is because when I work for those types of companies, and I just went through one in October, and I worked for that company for 17 months. And this is part of where there's a real use case, in my book of I intentionally, as I was writing the book, went back to work, sought out this specific company or companies like it, chose this one. And, this is what I'm trying to tell people. And even if you want to be very conservative, going to work for a very public company like Google. Google, for example, for a lot of roles, especially as you get, more and more senior manager, director, they're going to match your salary with equity. So imagine if you make $150,000 a year, then you're also getting $150,000 in equity that could go up or down, but then it's already liquid, right? It's shared on the stock market. So some people even get access in the first month or month 4. versus, like when you go to work for a pre-IPO company, there's a 4-year vesting schedule, and then you have to go through the event. You actually get those shares. Or working for Apple, I read something the other day that Apple is going to be giving certain employees $185,000 in stock, in equity, to keep them there, right? Because they don't want them moving to other companies. And, what I try and educate technology employees is you're usually going to get salary, bonus, and equity. So if you can live within your salary, if you and your spouse can be frugal, live within your salary, enjoy your bonuses, like those are your vacations or those are your larger purchases, then you want to invest your equity. If you're able to do that, you can get to financial independence and living this lifestyle by design a lot sooner than you think.
And then you can pick and choose what you want to do.
100%. And this is what I talk about in my book, like you can make an impact. But from no dough to IPO is my story of, really how I lost a small business in 2010 and was really focused on how do I go to work for tech equity. And the first startup company that I went to work for, abject failure. It was horrible. I ended up finding, a bad boss and a horrible situation. But out of that, and out of the processing the lessons learned, came the impetus of this process that now has gotten me, 2 successful IPOs.
Now you have thrivecommunity.fund is your latest investment.
Yeah. So thrivecommunity.fund. I mean, like you, I just find things that I find joy in. And as I have gotten into real estate and I have really put together, different teams as we go and we take these investments, what we're really trying to do now is we're trying to turn the perception of mobile home parks on its head. Right? When you talk to most people about mobile home parks, they're going to tell you what they've seen in the news, what they've seen on TV. But the reality is that in the United States of America, we have a housing crisis. Housing is not affordable for a lot of people. It's really, really out of reach. And where mobile homes are going to be, generally speaking, in whatever metro, their rule of thumb is they're going to be a half a cost of a 1-bedroom apartment. If a 1-bedroom apartment is $950, then it's going to be $475, right? And it's probably going to be a 2 or 3 bedrooms. So you can have a family, you can have a single mom with kids who has a little bit more area to spread out. There's a little bit of a yard. So this type of housing is really important. So thrivecommunity.fund is myself working with some veterans, and we have built a company that is, taking mobile home parks that are, mobile home parks are graded in stars. 5-star is where South Florida, these retirement communities that don't really look like mobile home parks are what we think of. They're gorgeous, but we take sort of the 2 stars and we want to get them to a 3 or a 3.5 star. And it's truly impact investing. And the reality is that there's a great opportunity to buy these very low, operate them. And, where our focus is to bring in community garden, to bring in a lot of education and social services there, and to have these communities be launching pads. And so make an impact, help also veterans, find purpose for themselves and be on mission, and then deliver great returns to our investors.
You're starting a podcast real soon.
That's right. That's right. So, going back to this mission of, helping out technology employees invest, having a lot of conversations, it just became apparent relatively quickly. I've been sitting on this for a while, as I've been really building out Wealthward Capital and working, my 9 to 5, is this conversation about tech careers and money. Is how does it all come together? How do you really think about growing your career in technology, not burning out, right? A lot of people don't realize that the burnout rate in technology is as high as ER doctors because of the 24/7 lifestyles, because of a lot of the demands, and that comes with the high compensation. How do you weave these things together so that as you are building and growing this career, you can be setting up your financial fortress to take care of yourself and your family for multiple generations? And so I just really want to be the facilitator of this conversation about tech careers and money. And I want to be able to bring forth people that I've met that have just, had these amazing journeys, so many great things to talk about. And then also, bring in experts and professionals, right? Everything from equity, and stock compensation lawyers, HR and hiring managers, to investment professionals, right? How do we really, start having this broader conversation so that we can educate ourselves?
What's your definition for you on living full?
Living full, I think is living with purpose around people that I love and I just enjoy being with. I mean, and it's really happened out of, I took a sabbatical from tech in 2019 and was working here out of the house. And then 2020 happened and we have 3 young boys. We kept them at home and we, did homeschooling for a year and we're just living here around the house. And my life felt incredibly full because we were just, we try to live with purpose. We really try to live with intention and doing this around people we love. That's really, really living full for us.
And I can tell just by our conversation that you do have fun in your work. What is the funnest thing about what you do?
I'd say the most joy that I get is really helping people. When I see the lights click on, whether that is in my day job at GitLab where I'm helping resolve some type of a technical issue. And it's like, what? It's solved. Like, wait, and this is working better than before. Or, bringing these great opportunities and seeing people light up as they're getting these, this mailbox money and these checks and going, oh my gosh, I didn't think it could work this way. Or it's, sharing with people, like, as I've been, had people in my inner circle on, this book journey, as I've been helping them negotiate compensation and teaching them things, and seeing them win brings me so much joy.
I love it. What do you know now that you wish you knew back then when starting?
I mean, there's a few things. I mean, I think as a, somebody who's in business, and I think you talk about this quite a bit, right? Is, because I am a content creator, right? We've gotten connected because I create content, and it's really that it's not going to be perfect up front. Like, you just have to get out there consistently and write. And, it's funny. I think about how Dave Grohl, who is one of the founders of Nirvana, right? This band that really changed music, and now the Foo Fighters. And he says, you have to get in there as a band and practice and just suck for a while until you get really good. And I think as a content creator too, you just have to get out there and start pushing out content and seeing what works. And you're going to find your voice and you're going to find your message in doing the work and being a part of it. And people are a lot more forgiving than we give them credit for, right? These groups that we bring together are not a bunch of trolls that are going to just be giving us a lot of negativity. People are incredibly supportive. And so I didn't know that at first. And so I was very nervous and was very hesitant. And it's really been in the last 18 months that I've gotten just very consistent with my newsletter. And I've just started building off of these different pieces of consistent content. And now, like I tell you, Gayla, I sat down to write out a content strategy for the year and it just flowed. Never has done that before, but it's just like, oh yeah, this is what I need to say. And this is what I've heard from people. I did a survey, to my users at the end of the year. What do they want to hear? And now it's like, oh, this lines up with what I need to say. But that comes from doing. I know I was there. Like, I sat there and I tried to do it in 2018, didn't happen. You have to go and you have to fumble around in the dark. And so that's something that, I think hearing your message has helped me feel even more comfortable as I've been on this journey.
I hear you. I was kind of the same thing when, you hear early on, well, you need to be consistent and put yourself out there. It's like, I don't even know what to say. So what am I going to say? I like to be behind the scenes. That's why I created my business. Oh, no, I can't do that. Well, I'm going to wrap up our show and ask you what your favorite resource or book has been that has made the biggest impact on you, either personally or professionally.
Wow. Getting it down to one book. It's really hard. I mean, if I were going to roll it up, the one book, and I have it right here, is this book by Cal Newport. He's a computer science professor, but it's so good they can't ignore you. Why skills trump passion in the quest for work that you love. And really, and I think about you and your new theme, but this really helped me understand and finding my way as an entrepreneur, in this new part of my journey as I am in the middle of a, long pivot, is that, it's really when you develop these skills and you think about yourself as a craftsman, that's when you really start opening the door to this joy. And so that's what I would sort of leave with you today.
Awesome. Well, I will have that in the show notes, the link to that book. I like to put books that my guests recommend on my resource page on my website. So I'll be sure to do that. And when your book is published, I want to be sure to put that on my resource. I want to be one of the first to order it and learn more. Christopher, it has been wonderful talking with you. Thank you so much for being with me.
My pleasure, Gayla. Thank you for this podcast and everything that you do.
Well, thanks for being here today. What was your biggest takeaway? I had several, but what really came out for me was when Christopher mentioned the term sudden wealth phenomenon and how it's a real thing. Something just struck a chord with me. Now, according to Investopedia, sudden wealth phenomena refers to the psychological condition or an identity crisis for individuals who have become suddenly wealthy. And it's characterized by isolation from former friends, even guilt in the change of circumstance, and an extreme fear of losing their money. Now, I'm sure that most folks wish they could win the lottery or wish for a windfall of money to land right in your lap so that suddenly all the financial problems would be over. Now, I've imagined it, quite frankly. And how about you? Have you imagined it? But what my takeaway was from my conversation with Christopher, among other things, was that there are steps that we can do now to mentally prepare and financially prepare ourselves for the day that all of our hard work will pay off in whatever venture we're doing. Well, the steps that we do now and the foundations that we can do financially will help us in the long term. The preparation provides stability in our lives so that the opportunities that we have, it opens up opportunities to do the things that make our lives full. Well, let's continue this conversation. Hop over to Facebook and post your biggest takeaway in today's show. All you have to do is to scroll down to the show notes there and you'll get that link to the Live Full Work Fun Facebook group. Share your biggest takeaways. Now, I do hope you enjoyed the episode, and I'd love for you to do me this tiny favor. Please share this episode with one person, just one person who you might find it helpful and enjoyable. Just text the link to them. Well, again, thanks for listening, and until next time, have a fantastic week. Live full, work fun.